Welcome back to another episode of the Supply Chainy podcast. I am your host, Nathan Cheney, and today we're going to dive into everything efficiency focused within the four walls of a warehouse or an entire DC network with JJ Stanczak of MTE Consulting Partners. JJ, can you take a minute and introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm JJ Stanczak, born and raised in Waukegan, Illinois. Have a beautiful wife, Kelly, two kids, Madeline and Lucas, currently living in Libertyville, Illinois, so just about 25 minutes southwest of where I grew up. And very grateful to be here. Thank you very much. It's been an interesting journey across the years to get to this point, but I love what I'm doing and very grateful to be in this position and certainly here talking with you here today.
I'm happy to have you. If I'm looking correctly through your LinkedIn profile, I noticed that you studied communications in school and you've made a couple other career stops before arriving here in the supply chain industry. Can you walk us through a little bit of your history of how we got here today?
Sure. So I early on, I'm sure like many people, I didn't really have much direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had aspirations of playing professional golf, like many young amateurs do, but also like many young amateurs, we don't play professional golf. We end up getting into the working world and trying to carve out our path that way. But I've had jobs. I remember coming out of college thinking if the golf didn't work out, I wanted something safety related and something secure, like a corporate job. And I eventually did get into one, and I quickly realized that path was not for me. I like to be able to make decisions in the best interest of my client and the people that I'm serving. And when you're in that role, that corporate role, it's more of a fall in line type of role. And I didn't have the freedom to kind of do what I always felt was best for the client. And that just wasn't me. So I knew early on that I wanted to venture out and be my own boss. I grew up in a house where my dad owned and operated a bowling alley that I grew up in. Every day of my life I was there until I was 13. And I just kind of saw the freedom that he had and what he was able to do with his life and, spend time with me and my sister and my mom. And I knew I wanted that for myself. So, there were different paths that I had taken, different roles. I've done, customer service for healthcare. I've done independent manufacturers rep sales. I had an independent energy brokerage business where we were the first company in Illinois that automated the process and made it paperless to where you could execute an energy supply deal with an e-signature. And, for one reason or another, all the different things that I had done, they had points of success, but ultimately they didn't pan out. But it led me here to where I'm at today. And I'm very grateful because this is truly what I love and my passion. I enjoy getting kind of involved and enthralled with my clients' operations and understanding how they operate, where their pain points are. And when we have an opportunity to add value, that's when it gets really fun, right? I have to listen for the key indicators of maybe inefficiencies or areas they're falling short. And if we can help, we do. And that's a lot of fun to be a part of.
I would like to kind of highlight a little bit more the transition into supply chain. You kind of touched on, you did some energy work and you've done some healthcare, you've done a couple of things, but what was that transition moment in your life where you moved over to the dark side into supply chain?
I'll call it the bright side of my career. So I had a counterpart that was on kind of the golf circuit up here. I'd run into him occasionally, and we'd get into to matches, right, where we're laying a little money on the line. And I had asked him one time what he did, and it intrigued me. I fast forward maybe a year or two later, and I actually was playing in a member guest tournament against his boss. And there wasn't much conversation. We wanted to step on each other's throats and catapult ourselves to victory for the tournament. And it came down to that match. And it was really funny. There was a side story where, there was some music being played and my partner couldn't handle it. And he blew up, I asked him to turn it off. And I'll never forget looking over at my opponents, and they kind of smiled at each other like, we've got these guys now, let's just roll, right? We're in their heads. But I circled back to him, and I gave him a call one day, and I said, hey, I think based on what you do in my network, I can be successful for you. I'd like to talk to you about a job. And he didn't understand. He didn't recall who I was at first. He said, JJ, and I said, yeah, JJ, we played golf in this tournament, and you and your partner smoked us, and you guys had the bachata music playing in the background, and it really rattled my partner. And he goes, oh yeah, he goes, I love your golf swing, and I knew in that moment there was an opportunity there. And within a half hour, we were sitting down at lunch, and the rest was history. I was basically hired at that lunch, and that's what brought me into the supply chain world.
And what kind of stuff did you do in that kind of first foray into the industry? What were you doing for him?
Sure, that role was data capture sales. So selling the Honeywells, the Zebra hardware, the DataLogic hardware of the world, the printers, the media that runs through those printers. So for barcoding, in that instance, it's the labels and the ribbon in certain kind of printers. We were doing warehouse signage, ancillary softwares that kind of complement the hardware, like mobile device management, things of that nature. But it was all focused around the data capture side. And at the time when I was hired, the other side of the business was warehouse slotting. And I didn't know it at the time of being hired, but I quickly understood that was something that was part of it, and I gravitated towards it. I kind of heard the history of success that it had and what it was doing for major names in the supply chain industry, end users. And I thought, geez, if I can deliver this type of value and create these type of outcomes and satisfied clients, that's all I want to do, right? I just want people to do well in their business, and if I can have a hand in making that happen, I knew that was something that I wanted to do. And I was quickly told, take it easy, Junior. If you can sell warehouse vision, you can sell anything. And it ended up being the first thing I sold there at that company, and it helped a forklift dealer automate their slotting process and their storage type analysis process, their layout optimization process, and they saw a lot of value in it. And really that kind of hooked me at that point. And I knew I wanted to gravitate towards the software side versus the hardware.
I think that story really highlights the power of building relationships out on a golf course or in any sort of networking situation, right? Where you can build one-on-one personal relationships with people, and that you never know who the person, the possibility that the person you're talking to today or riding in a golf cart with or talking to at a bar could be your next employer or your next biggest customer. And so, that story just really helps reinforce the concept of just always be mindful that the relationships that you're making today could have a lasting impact on the rest of your life. Can you talk a little bit about the transition from selling hardware, label, media, and all that sort of stuff to transitioning into selling a service and a software? Is there, from a sales perspective, is there a different mindset or strategy to go about doing that?
Well, when you're selling hardware, at least to me, this is how I saw it through my lens. You are one among thousands of other resellers of the same exact hardware. You're selling a commodity, and those end users are typically not refreshing their fleet of devices except for every 5 to 7 years. They make these devices well. They're very rugged. They last. One of the major selling points is how many drops a device can handle. So you're just one of a couple thousand out there. And to me, I didn't feel unique in any way. I felt like I was more so having to sell myself, which you are, and I enjoy doing that, right? You have to show people that you're acting in their best interest, and you really are in it only for their best outcome. On the software side of things, it was very much a niche industry. And you talk about a niche industry, we're talking about maybe one of 3 real known players that were operating in the slotting world or have been operating in the slotting world to this point. And I also saw the outcomes it was delivering. It was a little bit longer sales cycle, but I just knew that if I could be a part of something that delivered that much of a game-changing effect to people's operations, and I was seeing the reaction these companies had and how grateful they were for what the application was able to, or applications were able to deliver to them, I knew I wanted to tie myself to that because that was fun.
I think it would be a good point at this part of the conversation to talk a little bit about more specifically what these softwares, that you represent, that you sell, you install and maintain and set up. Can you talk a bit about what exactly they do and how that compares with a WMS or an ERP that somebody already has implemented in their warehouse or their DC?
Sure. So Most major distribution networks have a warehouse management system, and as many people I would believe would say, if I've heard over for the past 6 years, the WMS company goes in there and tells you that they're going to do a little bit of everything for you, right? And they take a very broad stroke and a broad approach to injecting optimization into the business, where the applications that we deliver are different is that it's a very focused niche solution. And they really came about by my partner, the gentleman that wrote them, identifying the inherent gaps between WMS functionality and the reality of daily operations. Many WMSs will tell you they have an element of slotting built into them or warehouse execution, and they're more so solutions in a box. They're not highly configurable, although they will lead on to tell you that they are. Typically, what I've learned from clients in the past is that they'll go down that rabbit hole of trying to develop the application, get it to do what you need it to do, and it ends up just being a money pit. You're throwing good money after bad, and you never quite get the functionality and the outcome that you are looking for. Whereas our applications are built on an open architecture, fully configurable, enable us to consider every attribute that is part of your unique operation. And if it's something that we don't have already existing and built into the application, we're able to add it and adjust on the fly to the client's specific needs. So it's that flexibility and that kind of configurability, virtually endless, that is just another element that makes it so unique and so fun to be a part of. I don't have to tell people no a lot. And when I tell people yes, it's not something where I'm going in the back of my mind, oh geez, we might be able to do that. I'm just going to say yes now and hope that we can do it. I know right away whether it's yes, we can do it, or no. And if I say yes, it's yes, we can do it.
Thanks for helping clarify a little bit there for me. Could you maybe go one little degree further and give an actual use case or a case study or a customer success story where you were able to make a big difference for a customer?
Sure. One that stands out was a large, well-known home improvement big box store. And they had what has been considered our main competitor in there, and really the household name in the industry, installed in all of their 60 plus distribution centers. We were brought in because they were not satisfied with the performance and the outcome and really the overall experience that they had with that software. And once we had gotten down the road of the conversation, they said, okay, we're going to run a head-to-head pilot, and it's going to be a month where they know that they're on the chopping block. They know that they're falling short here, here, and here. They know exactly what they need to do to retain the business. But we're going to give you a shot and see if you can outperform them, and it's going to be a month. And one of the major differentiators with Warehouse Vision compared to other independent slotting solutions is that we really focus on optimizing square footage in prime picking areas where you have your most activity, right? And where you want your most activity to come from, I should say, to reduce those order cycle times. You're drastically reducing the path in which someone has to travel to complete an order, and there's real value in that. So again, it was supposed to be a month, and one of the things we typically will ask to do as we go into a client is ask them to allow us to reconfigure maybe 2 end caps or 2 bays along their main picking aisle. And typically it's the same reaction every time. A lot of hands get thrown up, a lot of, oh, you can't do that, right? The perception is we're going to disrupt operations to a point where the employees are going to be unhappy, and if they're unhappy, then the efficiency in the operation is just going to fall off. But we quickly explain, we understand the perception, please just give us the opportunity. So we ended up getting permission to rearrange 2 end caps that might have had 5 products, 6 products each in them, right? It had 5 levels, 4 feet wide, 2 feet deep, 1.5 feet high, and again, 5-6 products, 5-6 SKUs on each. And we were able to run their orders through the application, considering unique item attributes, stored media attributes. We can consider seasonality, promotional, whatever it might be. But in this instance, we just took a day's worth of orders, ran them through. We ended up putting 70 to 80 SKUs in each of those 2 end caps. And within 1 week, their KPI for pick rate in that prime area shot up so high that they called the pilot after a week and said, that's it. Warehouse Vision wins. The gain that we have seen in just this 1 week has been amazing, just on 2 bays, right, out of a 300-foot main pick path. And then fast forward, there was an opportunity to apply the same logic to an empty building. And when we did that and ran that hypothetical, we modeled that, what that outcome would be. And it took that pick rate from roughly low 30s to north of 80%, where all the picks were now coming from that specific aisle. And they took a step back and said, this is tremendous. It's so impactful that we actually have to look at this across the network. And I thought that was, it's tremendous that a group of that size, right, and that dynamic of an operation felt that impact so swiftly and so dramatically that they realized they had to take a step back and now look at everything they were doing in terms of what it is and what it could be. And that's kind of it's just that continued pattern of delivering insight to provide foresight into what's possible, and then letting the application slowly over time run in the background to bring that into reality. Not quick, short-term adjustments and gains, but allowing it to just take its course over time without manual involvement, without people having to visit the application on the floor, without people on the floor having to get trained. And that's really, kind of the one success story that always stands out to me, that we typically explain to clients, this is something you can expect.
One little phrase you just said there that I think is maybe I'm gonna put down in my notes is provide the insight to give the foresight. That was a nice little wording there. One thing that you mentioned a while ago is upsetting employees and the people, the manual part of this. But actually, one thing that a lot of operators out there are talking about these days is going to automation and implementing robots and cobots and AGVs and all these sort of pieces of automation. Where do you fall into that picture? What's your role to play in a world where a lot of automation is being considered to be installed into warehouses and DCs?
On the automation piece, that's been accepted now for years, but more and more people, the majority now of the industry is saying, hey, we've got to be doing this. What's the best way for us to do it, right? How do we know exactly what the impact is going to be to our unique operation? And one of the things that is proprietary to what we do, and not just as a slotting application, but really as a solution and service overall in the industry, is we're able to model the impact of these various automation solutions, whether it's an ASRS, AGV, AMR, shelf to person, VLM, whatever it is. And so we first look at it independently. Does this make sense? Does this, does a multi-million-dollar investment make sense to your unique operation to consider based on your order history profile, your item profile, how the warehouse is set up now, and really how you pick, and all these many factors, right? And everybody's a little bit different. And so once we determine that, yes, it makes sense, then we say, okay, what are you considering? What do you want to look at? Is it AutoStore? Is it Adabotics? Is it Locus? Is it Kiva? You tell us. And at that point, if we don't already have it baked into the application, we can add the unique attributes and efficiencies typically gained by that automation. And then we start running orders through the application based on, again, the unique considerations and attributes of that automation solution, so that the end user can see exactly what the outputs are going to be. What's the good, what's the bad, what's the ugly. And now they can make an educated decision. They can compare and contrast across the board all the solutions that we were considering. And we'll have our insight, but it's up to them to determine what they believe is best based on the outputs and the data. And then once they make that selection, we're able to optimize that choice, that solution, so that on day one, when they go live, they have the leanest, meanest version of that automation solution. They're getting the best bang for the buck, if they will, right? That automation solution is firing on all cylinders, so that they're not left scratching their head going, geez, we thought we were going to get more performance out of this. We thought that this was going to work out so much better. What people will find is, if they're considering, say, autonomous mobile robots, they might be quoted 100 bots and given a specific pick rate. And what end users will find is that we're actually able to reduce the number of stops that those robots have to make based on strategically locating the product and optimizing the storage medium, so that because of those reduced stops, they now require fewer robots, less of an investment to achieve the same pick rate that the automation provider had quoted them. And again, what does that do? It takes that ROI and just brings it right back down. And essentially, we end up justifying the automation integration because at this point, it's a no-brainer, for lack of a better term, for the end user. Again, if it makes sense, they obviously that's up to them to determine what's best for them. We just present the data and help them get a clear picture into what's possible.
It seems like someone who's considering that sort of investment would be wise to kind of include an optimization sort of tool like this to do an analysis to make sure that it is the right decision, and maybe not necessarily just take the word of that integrator and say, yeah, you need 100 robots. This is what you need. This is what our guys say. But having an independent sort of outfit be able to come in and help provide that justification. I was going to say, I don't think that I noticed in any of your literature on your website saying powered by AI, machine learning, and that sort of thing, but that seems to be so prevalent in all sort of software and hardware. Can you talk a little bit about, why you aren't flashing this AI machine learning sort of banners on your products?
Well, it's because we're not AI, and that's okay. We do there is an element of machine learning built into the application. And again, we're talking about something that, was created back around 2000. But, we mentioned foresight before. The creator had the foresight to be able to understand the value of having an element of machine learning built into the application to where it learns over time. We configure it up front based on the conversations we're having with the client in that initial 6 weeks of an integration at their first facility. But then as exceptions arise, which they will, the application actually learns and considers those exceptions. And then once the right decision is made and the right configurability is adjusted, it now understands that that's the selection it makes going forward. It forgets, the bad choice. It understands the correction. And going forward, you now have it's a better version of itself. But you'll never hear us talk about, us being part of the AI revolution. And that was one of the things I had a very candid discussion with our creator and my chief engineer was, are we future-proofed, right? With all the automation and the AI coming down the path. And that's, I think that's not going to slow down. It's only going to continue to grow in terms of acceptance and interest. And then the automation piece, our ability to model that is, it's significant, advantageous, and of value for integrators who are looking to position their solution in the best possible light and close more deals. It's significant for the end user who wants to understand if this is feasible, if it makes sense, and then how they can really customize it and dial it in to perform and be the best possible solution for their unique operation. And that's what we're able to do. And that is, that's impactful. And that is really a cool thing to be a part of. So
you're essentially saying that you've kind of had that machine learning AI sort of capability built in from 2000, from the inception of the platform.
I didn't say
itself,
AI.
And that it's got that
an element of machine learning.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that.
To be clear.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it's there.
I'm so conditioned to say AI all the time now. Sorry.
Everybody is. I mean, it's something that everybody feels like they need to be addressing, and they just don't. They're not sure how. Yeah. But they've got a team, and we're all assessing it and trying to understand how we can leverage it. It's just a little, it's still a little bit down the road.
In talking to you, right now and before the show a little bit, I can't help but notice and see the passion that you have for what you do, for this niche kind of the supply chain and of what goes on in warehouses. And I'm curious if you've seen any of my posts where I kind of call out this thing where I say, I call it Adidas, all day I dream about supply chain. And I'm curious if there's anything in your day-to-day life where you kind of just can't help but see a supply chain or a warehouse optimization opportunity where, what you do in your day job kind of could flow over into your day-to-day.
First, let me make sure my wife isn't listening. The one that pops out in my mind the most is our front hall closet and also our laundry room. Right, we have bins, but the bins have the wrong things placed in them. Right, we start out and we put shoes in one and hats in one and winter stuff in another. But over time, much like a warehouse, you see this cycle of inefficiency creep in because it's not being addressed and maintained. Where the boots are in the small shoe bin and the winter hats are in the summer shoe bin. In the laundry rooms, things start spilling out off the shelves onto the floor. where we're not utilizing that space to the best of our ability. So immediately, I kind of think like, how do I create an application or an app for people's homes to where they can take a picture of a space and it understands the dimension like a Cubiscan for the house, and how to best leverage that space. So I certainly see that, and in other places, where you go, space is valuable. Helping people get the most out of the square footage they pay big bucks for and top dollar for in their warehouse. You can't help but let it spill over into your normal day life when you see underutilized space.
You're really kind of ramping up your marketing engagement and kind of just being part of the supply chain community and trying to get your name out there. And you were on the new warehouse with Kevin Lawton. Can you talk a little bit about that experience, what that experience was like for you?
Sure. It was great. Kevin's a great guy. I'm meeting a lot of new people in the industry, yourself included, and connecting with you has led to other connections as well. And it's really helping me achieve my goal of shedding the light on the applications we sell, Warehouse Vision, DC Profiler, ICAM, which is really all we need, right? And I say that because in the back of my mind, there were 1,600 installations when I came into Warehouse Vision in 2018, all without a single outbound phone call, essentially. It was all referrals. And any salesperson out there, you don't even have to be a salesperson. You go, wait, what? You didn't, why is that? And I think it's logical to say that if someone's behind it and giving it the focus and the attention and putting the passion behind it that it deserves, it's natural that it's going to take its course, and more people are going to see that it's an option, that it's out there. And I'm just here to create awareness about it, right? I know what it does for people. I know the value and the functionality and the performance and the outcomes that it exceeds consistently. So the more I work with folks like yourself and get the word out there, I think it's just natural for it to take that course and to continue to grow and help more and more people. That's all I want to do. So, people like Kevin's great, so knowledgeable, and, kind of like yourself, has that constant, what can be better? How can we help people? What can we show people? We're doing it this way today, but, maybe is there a better way to do it tomorrow? So, working with folks like you guys and just trying to get the word out, that's my goal. That's my goal, and you guys are helping me do it, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, it's whenever we first kind of crossed paths and I saw a lot of discussion, on your LinkedIn about warehouse slotting, and I just kind of kept looking through and peeling back the layers of onion, and I just realized, oh my gosh, this person is extremely passionate about warehouse slotting. And I remember my first message to you was, how did you get into this, and how are you so passionate and such a specialist in this area? And really that kind of led to this. So it's that passion for what you do that helps start conversations, just like how we started talking because of that. So it's really awesome that you're really kind of building a name for yourself. I think I know that you don't want to claim that you're a guru or an expert at it, but really I think it should be evident to anyone listening to the podcast that having the passion for it plays a big role in kind of making you a subject matter expert, in a particular space. And I think you've got that by the bushel. So, well done to you. What do you have? What's in the pipeline?
Focus has really been growing our network of partners, working with consultants that are doing storage type layout analysis, developing slotting strategies, making recommendations for better processes within the warehouse, and then also on the other side, the integrators who are in there presenting automation solutions to people. We really want to help them close more business and really provide a better offering, right? We complement what they do and enable them to, number one, cut out man hours, right? So we're helping them get more efficient in what they do. But then two, delivering a more desired outcome on behalf of the client, which then just creates more stickiness for them and gives them more opportunity for recurring business down the road. It's all part of this ecosystem of growing the network, shedding light on the application, letting people know that if your warehouse is hurting from the cycle of inefficiency, you see a lot of open locations, you can't find product, your order cycle times are through the roof, your replenishments are through the roof, you're making way too many stops, you're not meeting cutoff time, or you're not really understanding where your workers are in the pick process and why it's taking them so long to complete a pick, we can help there. So that's really the focus of 2024.
And best of luck to you as you go down that path and grow your business.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on today and talking, share a bit of your expertise with us in the warehouse optimization space. Like I said a while ago, it's clear that one, you know what you're talking about, and two, that you're passionate about it, and it's great to see that in other professionals in the industry. If somehow someone started playing this episode and they fast forwarded it through the entire thing and they just got here to the last 30 seconds or 1 minute, what's the one thing that you would want them to hear as a result of this episode?
I think a lot of people feel stuck with current systems that they're in. They paid a lot of money for their WMS, and they're doing everything they can to optimize that and get the performance out of it that they know they want. I just want them to know that there's an alternative out there, right? Our solutions were designed on the premise of addressing the gaps left between the WMS and daily operations. There's a reason that we have over 1,800 installations worldwide with Warehouse Vision, our slotting tool. And really, for those operations that are looking to the future and understanding that they need to grow, they need to start considering automation solutions and really everything that comes with it, including the investment. They've got a partner in us, right? Our whole goal is to help empower the warehouse of tomorrow today. And some people might find that they're considering automation, and maybe with the efficiencies gained by just optimizing what they currently have, better using their space, optimizing their storage media, getting the most out of the current square footage they have, maybe they can put off that automation investment a few years down the road, because there are significant efficiencies to be had. You're becoming the best version of yourself, so that when you do complement it with something like automation, you then have the best combination going forward, and you're going to get the most out of that investment.
Awesome. That totally makes sense. And I think that does really wrap up a lot of the points that we covered here today on the podcast. So thanks for coming on the show and sharing some, again, of your time with us today. Best of luck for the rest of the year and accomplishing those goals and getting the word out about MTE Consultants and what you guys do.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it. I wish you guys all the best as well at Supply Chain.